The Post on Church Point Road in Gonzales would like to invite everyone to their newly renovated events hall, a beautiful 9,600 square foot facility that features a 5,500 square foot main hall and a separate 600 square foot conference room. Renters have access to our huge kitchen, large stage, tables, chairs, bar, and covered outdoor cooking. So plan your next wedding, party, conference, and more at The Post on Church Point Road in Gonzales.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
The all-new 22 Civic, now on sale at Team Honda on Siegen Lane.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling. Nothing could ever bring me down. Nothing could ever bring me down. Taste the feeling.
Hello and welcome as we start today's edition of the Clarence Bud Show. Here's hoping all is well with you and yours in your world. Since the last opportunity we had to spend a little time with you and yours roughly some 24 hours ago. We start today's show with one of everybody's favorite people, my man. I call him affectionately the Kingmaker, Roy Fletcher, political consultant extraordinaire. How are you, my friend?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good.
America dealt a bit of a shock, for lack of a better phrase, this week, with elections that many people viewed as a referendum on the current administration, the Biden-Harris administration. How much of this was a referendum on the Biden-Harris administration and their performance or the lack thereof so far?
First of all, Clarence, everybody was surprised except yours truly.
You nailed it. You called it. I mean, you called it to the letter, Roy.
Yeah, we call it up in North Louisiana bank walking. But
I like that.
But first of all, I think that to take both of them separately, and then there's some other races around the country that are interesting.
Right.
But Virginia and New Jersey, I want to take them separately. Mm-hmm. Virginia there was a sense of exactly what you're saying, a referendum on the Biden administration. But something happened unusual in Virginia. And it became very much of a local race as we got closer to the election, and that was Loudoun County.
Right.
Loudoun County affected that race tremendously, and national Democrats and even the national Republicans don't want to admit that, but it happened. It happened significantly. Now,
and for those that don't know, the Loudoun County thing centered a lot around the critical race theory.
It centered around 2 rapes. It centered around that occurred. One of them occurred in a girl's bathroom with a guy with a dress on.
Right.
The daddy got his brains beat out by the police
and arrested.
When he went to the school board to speak out. And that night that he went to the school board to speak out about his daughter, they were taking up critical race theory.
Right.
So every cultural issue in the world was right there in everybody's face.
Yeah.
Okay, that's number one. New Jersey was absolutely a referendum on the Biden administration because Murphy, whatever his name is, Phil Murphy or whatever,
right.
He, as a governor, had followed very stringently the administration's, all of the COVID mandates, all of that stuff.
Yep.
and he was supposed to win overwhelmingly. That's not a blue state. That's a dark blue state.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And suddenly he was in this election where we still not certain because they got to do some recounts. And interestingly enough, in New Jersey, the president of the Senate, who was a Democrat, got beat by a truck driver who spent $153 because they got caught in a wave election up there. And that's what happened.
Yep.
So yeah, in New York City, for example, 3 Republican councilmen, New York City councilmen were elected. You go down the line, and there was a certain amount of, hey, we've had enough of all of this. Of all of this. And Virginia became, we've had enough of all of it, but Loudoun County gave us a specific reason to go, we're done.
You mentioned how the Virginia race, and particularly Loudoun County, became a local issue. On the other hand, the opposition brought in all the big national heavy hitters. Former President Obama, Vice President Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, others.
And that is a perfect example of people not being attuned to what's going on. Because every time one of those people came, it reminded people of what they don't want. Okay. And Loudoun County is a suburb of Washington, D.C. And it's been classically for the last few years, Democratic.
Right.
A lot of white liberals. I'm going to say it the way it is.
Well, yeah.
And suddenly, all of a sudden, it was their children, and it was everything, and they just went, oh, wait a minute, I can't do this. I got to reject this, you know?
Right.
It's very weird.
The constant demonization of different groups, the identity politics, while never offering viable, workable solutions. Did that finally catch up with the Democrats?
I think so, because they basically wanted to tar and feather Republicans as racist and Trump. Okay, that's all but this guy Youngkin, to his credit, had a whole pitter-patter, is what I call it, of solutions and ideas and different things. And so, yeah, I think that did catch up to them to an extent. But the fact that they got into all of that rap about, oh, y'all racist and Trump and blah, blah, what that did was it just reinforced the notion that they're not listening to what's going on. And they're not seeing what's happening in Loudoun. We're experiencing this all over the place. And the pandemic and them being out of school and all that just added to the complete frustration with the public school system.
You mentioned, and many pundits have done the same, a disconnect, not just with the American people, but even with members of their own party. You look at the Latino vote, and they literally revolted against Democrat policies.
That's been coming. The inroads that Trump made with the Latinos is especially important to note. In his 2 elections. But yeah, that's been coming with Latinos, and they had a Latino on the ballot. That's an interesting point. In Virginia, that Democrats called everybody a racist that were Republican and voting for Youngkin. On that ballot, and it was almost synonymous, the correlation was very, very high, was a African-American woman who became the first African-American lieutenant governor in the country, woman, and then a Latino candidate for Attorney General. Both of them won on the ticket with Youngkin, but yet some way that somebody's a racist. I kind of don't quite get it. And down in the fighting ninth, which is right there on the southern border, in the southeastern part of the state of Virginia, on the southern border with West Virginia, those people were voting right down the line. They wasn't asking, well, which one is the, whatever, right? No. They were voting conservative. They were voting what they thought was to their best interest. And it just so happened that the woman, the African-American woman, a former Marine,
Jamaican immigrant.
What a story. She was conservative. The Latino Attorney General, conservative. And so they immediately picked up the signal on the pitter-patter and said, that's my candidate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Conventional wisdom, Roy, says, if I'm a member of the powers that be in the Democrat Party, watching this revolt by Latinos, I am quaking in my boots because I'm wondering, is the next revolt going to come from what is arguably the most loyal part of our base, and that's African Americans?
And that's a real question, and we have no evidence to the effect that might or might not occur. I mean, we see occasionally a Republican do 14, 20%. But in the situation in Virginia, that didn't happen. Trump in presidential got 13, 14, and that was a very high watermark for. So we don't see that yet. But if you start, remember the public school system in those counties in Virginia, in public schools in Virginia is half African American and half others than white.
Right.
And so you start fooling with that in ways that goes against people's values, and you may very well end up kind of having some sense of a revolt in that regard. But Latinos are interesting because what we found through polling data and voting behavior is that Latinos who've been here and who immigrated here and are 10, 12, 15 years been here, they are far more likely to vote Republican than Latinos or immigrants who just came into the country.
And far more likely,
because they have more to lose.
And far more likely to disagree with the Biden-Harris administration regarding their policies on illegal immigration.
Absolutely they are. Yeah. I mean, because most of them got in here legally. That's an interesting point.
Do you read anything into the fact that Youngkin pretty much kept Donald Trump at arm's length throughout the entire campaign process? What do you make of that, and what's to be gleaned from that?
First of all, Trump he's not popular in Virginia. I mean, and he was beaten there by 10, 12 points by Joe Biden.
Right.
And Youngkin did what Youngkin had to do in the primary. He got the Trump endorsement.
Right.
Because the Trump endorsement in the Republican primaries is very, very potent, or at least it has been. And it was in Virginia, and it is in other places. But in the general election, he had to broaden the base in Virginia, and he could not afford that. He handled that very well. And what it proved is that the MAGA group had gotten the message in the primary. They knew what the deal was, and they're sophisticated. See, everybody wants to act like they're stupid.
Right.
No. Right. They're very sophisticated. They knew what was going on. They knew the game being played, the dance. And Youngkin knew the dance, and Trump knew the dance. Trump didn't interject himself into that. He could have easily done that, but he didn't do that. So only at the end did he have some kind of teleconference or something with his supporters in Virginia and tell them directly what he was interested in. And so as a long term or as a broad thing, as it relates to, there are going to be places where Trump can be very helpful in general elections, and there are going to be places where he will cause some problems, and where he's a disruptor. And they just have to figure that out. Now, what will get down to 2024 as we get closer and closer to that election there will be a calculation going on in people's heads. I tell you this right now, among Republican primary voters, and that is, if we nominate Trump, can he win? Mm-hmm. Because what we want to do is win.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that's what DeSantis and a couple of other people see as maybe a possibility that gives them a chance to be the candidate for the Republicans.
We're going to get our first break of today's show out of the way. When we come back, the media, particularly the mainstream and left-leaning media, are losing their minds over this. We'll analyze that when we continue today's edition of the Clarence Bugg Show with Roy Fletcher, right where you've got it, here on the Pelican. Stay close.
Hi, I'm Bobby Yarborough with Manda Fine Meats. Here at Manda, we know what the folks of South Louisiana love. They love great flavored smoked sausage, delicious deli meats, and specialty items like boudin and andouille sausage. Manda Fine Meats has been providing these products since 1947. We produce them right here in Baton Rouge, so you know you're always getting the freshest product at your local grocery store. Manda Fine Meats. Taste the fresh local flavor in everything we make. Make it Manda every time.
Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent. Depend on us for service, for selection, for price. Get huge Whirlpool savings. Shop now and save on Whirlpool appliances throughout the store. Plus, experience our price match guarantee and ask about special financing. You can depend on the know-how of people who live appliances every day. Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent with nationwide buying power.
Go where summer leads you in an award-winning Mazda CUV. Find yours during Mazda's season of discovery.
Call, click, or come by and discover your new Mazda today at Baton Rouge's Mazda dealer. Team Mazda on Airline.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-778-4345. 800-778-4345.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
Welcome back to today's edition of the Clarence Bugg Show. Spending some time with the Kingmaker, political consultant and analyst extraordinaire, great friend of the show and everybody's favorite, Uncle Roy Fletcher. Roy, let's talk about the media. The mainstream media, are totally freaking out over the results of the elections this week, primarily because they didn't see this one coming. What should that say to us, that a group of individuals who claim to be more in tune with the American public than any other entity had no idea this was coming?
Clarence, if I could see it coming, so could Ray Charles.
Stevie Wonder could see this one coming.
I mean, I don't get it, but they have freaked out totally over this election. And it reminds me of 2016, when I mean, people were screaming out in the streets and slashing their wrists and everything else, and the tires of people's cars.
Right.
But I don't know. I can't even imagine living in the country and not understanding that you're living in a divided nation.
Right.
And these wins and these losses are not wins and losses by great magnitude in many places.
Right.
They're very close races. There were 74,000 votes in Virginia. 74,000. That's not a lot of votes. In 20,000 in New Jersey.
Right.
So we're not talking. So when you get into this thing of, gee whiz, we won and therefore we have this you don't have a mandate at that kind of situation.
No.
You got to manage. And you got to figure out how to build coalitions and do things.
Right.
And this craziness that they have promoted with what this race was all about only adds to the craziness that we see out of the policy predilections of the Biden administration and what they'd set up.
Yeah.
And they're not acting normal. They forgot. There's still a middle in this country.
Right.
There's still some people out there that go in either way. Just depends on how well you convince them.
Now, that being said, watching the media and their response to this, it's almost as though they haven't learned anything. I mean, they are literally doubling down on the insanity.
Yeah, they are. They're doubling down on the insanity.
So, that being said, is there any expectation that the media will learn from this?
Well, first of all, I don't know that's possible. But here's what's going on in terms of cable. And you know this as well as anybody. CNN and NBC, MSNBC, preach.
MSLSD.
Yeah, that's good. They preach to their base. And what's happening is the base is dwindling.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can see it in
You can see it.
Yeah. I mean, and you made a point in the halftime here that CNN was down to 500,000 prime time.
Right.
That's a disaster.
Out of 330 plus million people?
It shows you also that the cable talk show stuff does not penetrate very much into, but it penetrates into to sort of the activist and that sort of thing, and so they preach to their base, and that's what they're doing. Fox News, on the other hand, is they've tried to stretch a little bit. They have, and they've made some people angry. But they're expanding their audience.
Right.
But that's so it is incumbent upon them to. Here's what gets me, is that in that craziness of preaching to their base,
right,
corporate America, wokeism buys in. Instead of going, you know what, I don't think so.
Right.
I think we want an audience. And it's not just, the 822 libs,
right,
the crazies out there. We want an audience. And they don't seem to quite understand that.
I've always viewed American politics and the prevailing sentiment like a pendulum.
Yes.
In this country, we swing in one direction and then we swing back in another. And
the good news is the swings are not quite as
right.
They're within a sort of a center.
Yeah. Now, that being said, the middle, once all that energy is expended in whichever direction you're going to swing in, you come back in the opposite direction. Ideally, it's that middle ground, or in this case, independence, that can end up determining whether you win an election or lose an election. All this being said, with politics being as cyclical as it is, what do you think the Democrats will learn, if anything, from this latest drubbing?
First of all, the swings over the years have gotten, but they've gotten more, they get a little further out.
Right.
Okay, I mean, that's absolutely correct. I mean, Obama's election kind of, and then Trump's, the reaction. So what the Democrats are going to learn is, I have no clue what they're going to learn. Because here's the argument already in the Democratic Party. There are people that are saying, hey, you guys and gals in the Democratic Party, y'all need to moderate this stuff.
Right.
And at least figure out a way to hide some of it.
Right.
And nullify it to some extent so that y'all can get back a little bit toward the middle.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, there's a group in the Democratic Party that are saying, no, the way that we deal with this is that we get the real progressives and let them run. And now, I want you to know, being Republican,
right.
I hope they win the argument that the progressives need to control the party.
Lord. Put them in charge of everything.
Please do that.
Yeah.
Because then, at least in the short run, I know things will be better. But the truth is that competitiveness in politics is important. And right now, we can tilt a little bit to the right, and we get Virginia and New Jersey, and it's clearly that's. But on the other hand, it may go back, and we don't know. Yeah. But here's the deal. The competency issue has created a situation that's really made the sort of the left, and Biden getting further and further to the left. Right. His lack of competency has created a situation where that ideology is becoming to be very jaded to the American public.
And that was going to be the next question. Will all of this force Democrats to confront the issues that are problematic in America? Crime, inflation, the border, I mean, you name it. Just go down the list. Is this going to force them to confront the issues, or do they end up having to continue to go down the same road because they don't really have any solutions to these problems? Their solutions are to demonize somebody else.
That's all it. But here's the way the market works really well. Okay. And where are the votes? And the votes are not on these edges.
Right.
The far edges. Unlike they would, the votes are more toward
the middle.
Okay. And so, I mean, a market's going to drive candidate. And so candidates will pop up in the Democratic Party that go, no, I'm not. I don't believe that. I'm going to do that. What's happened, though, and that's sort of political entrepreneurs figuring that out, okay? Right. But what has happened is that the basic concept of what a Republican, what a Democrat is, that partisanship, that those glasses of partisanship have affected stuff so much that it's hard for political entrepreneurs to operate in that stuff. So I don't know that the Democrats are going to learn anything. But they did it in 1992 when Bill Clinton kind of cleaned them up. Right. Okay, so to speak. I don't know if they got somebody like that now that can, and I don't know that person can get the nomination in the Democratic Party because those activists operate that. The same thing with the Republican Party. But here's what's happened, and this is what I would really make a point about. Okay. Yesterday was Virginia, New Jersey. While Donald Trump wasn't seen, Donald Trump was heard.
Oh, yeah.
And what those people were saying. And what's happened is Trumpism has become more and more part of the center of American politics. Right. And that's his value.
And that's got to scare the bejesus out of Democrats.
Well, yeah, and it's a very much of a populist message. It's not. They want to make it all this crazy stuff, but it's not that crazy right wing stuff. It is a very, very populist message.
I was particularly heartened to see the number of conservatives to win in school board races. Yes. Are we witnessing the beginning of a grassroots revolution? Because as you know better than anybody, all politics are local.
Yeah, well, I agree with that to some extent. But in this situation, yes, what we are seeing is the impact of COVID and pandemic and all of this stuff for shutting down schools and all of that. What they got out of that was Mama and Daddy started to notice what the hell was going on over there at the schoolhouse.
Amen.
And what's on my computer and what my child's seeing and learning and what those teachers are doing and so on and so forth and what these teacher unions do and all of this stuff.
Right.
And they're like, I don't like this. I have learned something in this. And my child, when they forced my child to be in mask and to do all of this stuff, to go back to school, I'm going to pay damn whole lot of attention to what these people are doing. They're running our lives. No, it needs to be reversed. We need to be running their lives.
Amen. If the results of the elections this week came as a surprise to you, then you, like most Democrats, obviously, were not paying attention to Roy Fletcher. Had you been watching Fletcher Nation, the podcast, keeping up with everything that Roy puts out there, you would have known ahead of time. How can folks check out the podcast, Roy?
All right, you just go to Fletcher Nation.
Fletcher Nation.
Yeah, on Facebook, and you can find all the stuff there.
He is, I very affectionately call, the Kingmaker. It's going to be interesting to watch all of this unfold. My friend, appreciate the time.
No, I appreciate it.
We'll do it again soon. Bottom of the hour break. We'll come back with more on today's edition of the Clarence Bugg Show, only on the Pelican. Stay close.
Got termites? Get Premier Pest. PremierPestServices.com.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
Hi, I am Dr. Farrell Frugier Jr., and I am a general dentist at Frugier Family Dentistry. I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went to Catholic High School, LSU, and LSU School of Dentistry in New Orleans, where I received my DDS degree in 1986. I always have and will continue to be committed to continuing my education, to invest in technology which makes the diagnosis and delivery of dentistry more thorough, more comfortable, and more aesthetically pleasing. In our practice, we are here to serve the patients. We want to improve their quality of life and to develop relationships with our patients. In dentistry, we have a chance to impact lives on a daily basis. Not just by doing dentistry, but by getting to know them and being a part of their life. We also believe in giving back to our community. So every year, we give back to the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, Toys for Tots, and Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. Please stop by and visit our office. We would love to take care of you and your family.
Hi, I'm Hurricane Betsy Barnes.
And I'm Dr. Kay Siller with The Rocket Right Show.
We are two busy blondes on the go showing off life in Louisiana.
Watch us on Pelican Sports Network.
And Talk 107.3 FM. Check local listings for times.
Caught spiders? Premier Pest Services.
Welcome back to today's edition of the Clarence Bugg Show. A couple of stories yesterday caught my attention, and both of them involve individuals with cars and decisions that were made. In Baton Rouge yesterday, an over 1 hour long police chase winding through neighborhoods all across Baton Rouge. At one point, doorbell and security cameras catching as many as 12 police cars chasing this stolen car. And the number of innocent lives that were endangered by an individual's conscious decision to engage in the most selfish of behavior. Police eventually able to stop the car, and as has become one of the more troubling trends in the capital region in recent memory, when police stop the vehicle, they extract from the car an 18-year-old and 3 juveniles. Upon further investigation, it was found out that the 18-year-old earlier this year was in more serious trouble. Y'all accept this in the spirit that it's given? In the last segment, Uncle Roy said, I doubt if the Democrats are going to learn anything from what just happened. I would go so far as to say this 18-year-old probably identifies as a Democrat. You just got your sorry behind in a mess of trouble, and May, June, July, August, September, October, November, 6 months later, you're leading police on an hour-long chase with 3 other juveniles in the car. Now, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not personal friends with anybody that claims to possess psychic abilities. But conventional wisdom tells me we've not heard the last from either this 18-year-old or these juveniles, and not in a good way. When an 18-year-old makes an appearance in court, 6 months later, endangers the lives of God knows how many innocent people, flying through neighborhoods with police in hot pursuit. It says to me, and I would imagine to any reasonable thinking person, that unless some serious intervention occurs real soon in the life of this 18-year-old, it is a tragedy just waiting to happen. You know, you can say what you will, but I am a firm believer that Democrat policies have directly led to the decimation of the African American community and their families. Specifically, the lack of father figures. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, if you are a person of color and you are concerned about what is happening in our neighborhoods, here's a frightening statistic for you that may explain a whole lot of it. In just my lifetime, and I don't mind telling you, I'm 63. In just my lifetime, when I was a kid, over 80% of African American families had 2 parents. Today, close to 80% of all African American children born will be born to a single parent household. Now, please, don't get it twisted. Don't misunderstand me in any way, shape, or form. There are some wonderful single mothers out there. However, when a young man reaches a certain age, there's only so much most females can do with that youngster. You need a strong male in that household to yank that chain, to jack them up, to lay down the law. End of discussion. And what we are seeing today all across the spectrum is a direct result of Democrat policies that make it possible / profitable for you not to have a father in the home. Rest assured, y'all, as much as it pains me to say it, we've not seen nor heard the last from the 4 miscreants that so very selfishly endangered countless innocent lives in a stolen car. Now, speaking of cars and bad decisions, what may have been the most tragic story I've seen in recent memory yesterday rocked the National Football League. Las Vegas wide receiver Henry Ruggs III, arrested for DUI and other charges after driving his Corvette 156 miles an hour while drunk twice the legal limit, hitting another car with a 23-year-old woman inside, causing it to burst into flames and burn her alive. You know, it is tragic on so many levels. And parents, I understand for many of you, it's difficult and uncomfortable for many of you to talk to your kids about decisions and how they can affect the rest of your life. I can't begin to imagine what it must be like for Henry Ruggs III to have awakened this morning after making God knows how many sacrifices to get to the NFL, become a multimillionaire, live in a city where you're celebrated, everybody knows your name, and you wake up this morning saying to yourself, man, I had the most horrible dream last night. I dreamt that all my money was gone. I'd lost my job with the team. I crashed my car. And I took somebody's life. I am so glad to wake up from this dream, and you jump up and there are bars in front of your face. Now listen, y'all. I am not going to insult you or myself by trying to tell you or even intimate in any way, shape, or form that if I had a Corvette at 22 years old, that I would always drive the speed limit. I'm not going to insult you and even lean in that direction. But most 22-year-olds that are fortunate enough, blessed enough, lucky enough to have a Corvette don't have millions and millions of dollars at stake to lose. Aside from the tragicness of a woman losing her life, aside from how tragic it is that this guy made sacrifices probably every day since middle school to arrive at the point where he was, because he is no longer. Aside from all of that, making a conscious decision to drive 156 miles an hour while you are twice the legal limit. You are part of an organization, an NFL team and a league that has more resources at your disposal than most mere mortals could ever encounter. I mean, in the NFL, when you sign and become a member of a franchise, there are mandatory seminars, meetings that you have to go through to warn you of the pitfalls that may lie in your path and to make you aware of the resources to help you get around these things. And yet, he made a conscious decision, a decision to throw it all away, just like that. If it is uncomfortable for you parents to talk to your kids about decision making, here's a suggestion. Just talk to them about this story. And hopefully, if done right, they'll get the message. Just saying. Speaking of getting the message, after our final break of today's show, 2 messages. One received, the other, maybe not so much. We'll talk about that after we put this big old pretty bow on this puppy and wrap up today's edition of the Clarence Bugg Show, only on the Pelican. Stay close.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats. The flavor says it all.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystonCountryClub.com.
The Post on Church Point Road in Gonzales would like to invite everyone to their newly renovated events hall, a beautiful 9,600 square foot facility that features a 5,500 square foot main hall and a separate 600 square foot conference room. Renters have access to our huge kitchen, large stage, tables, chairs, bar, and covered outdoor cooking. So plan your next wedding, party, conference, and more at The Post on Church Point Road in Gonzales.
Tremonti's has meat, Tremonti's has seafood, Tremonti's has much more. Tailgating and home gating platters, huge wine and liquor selection, beer and all the spices you need, Chairman Reserve and Wagyu meats, ribeye rolls, shrimp rolls, kebabs, 20 flavors of sausage for the grill, daily lunch specials and game processing, on-site catering also available. Good meat ain't cheap and cheap meat ain't good. Visit Tremonti's.com.
Sometimes life is wonderful, and sometimes it's not. Cherish the good, but always be prepared for life's challenges. At Private Healthcare, we provide the peace of mind you deserve. With private healthcare, you'll get the coverage you want and healthcare you need. If your employer doesn't supply healthcare coverage and you don't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, you need to give us a call right now. Private healthcare is private health insurance for ages 65 and under with medical, dental, vision, and even prescription coverage. When life comes at you unexpectedly, you need to be ready. And health insurance is your financial safety net. Health insurance has never been so easy and affordable. If you're looking for health coverage at the best price and your annual household income is $35,000 or more, call the number on the screen now and speak with a live healthcare consultant. Don't wait. Get the coverage you need now.
Welcome back to the final segment of today's edition of the Clarence Bug Show. You know, with all the turmoil going on around the country, with all the things that you have going on in your professional and personal lives, and watching all of these things happen that leave you feeling helpless. I mean, these are problems that are huge in magnitude and involves individuals, institutions, and entities that are above our pay grade. Many times you want to do something to make a difference in the lives of your fellow Americans, and particularly in our case, our fellow Louisianians, but you don't think there's anything that you can do that will really help make a difference. Well, here's something you can do that can have a bigger impact than many of us, except those who regularly engage in it, ever think about. Our Lady of the Lakes Blood Center announcing this week that they are facing a critical blood shortage, particularly O negative and O positive blood types. When they say give the gift of life when you give blood, that's exactly what it is. And in this case, the good thing is you don't even need an appointment. You can simply go by Our Lady of the Lakes Blood Center or Our Lady of the Lakes Children's Hospital, and they will process you, get you in, and get that donation. It is something that many of us never take the time to think about. But imagine with a critical shortage of O negative and O positive blood types. Imagine if you or your loved one, God forbid, involved in a horrific accident this day and they need that blood, what it would mean. It's real easy to give. Again, you don't even need an appointment. Make sure you eat well before you go and give the gift of life. You never know who you may end up saving, and it could be someone that you know. Finally, it is becoming more and more apparent with every passing day that sadly, the leader of this country that I love and the leader of the free world is not all there. For those of us that have gone through life and had the circumstance of dealing with a family member or loved one whose mental faculties right before our very eyes are diminishing, we understand what it means. It was announced recently in an article in the Wall Street Journal that the Biden administration, the White House, was considering paying illegal immigrants who were separated from their children after engaging in the criminality of entering this country illegally, $450,000 apiece. This week, when questioned about this Wall Street Journal article, Joe Biden called it, quote, garbage. Now, two things. First of all, does that mean the Wall Street Journal now is going to be canceled because, after all, they are disseminating disinformation and fake news? But it is the Wall Street Journal, so we know that that's not going to happen. But secondly, and more important, after Joe Biden came out and said, well, that's garbage, that's not going to happen, that's fake news, the ACLU comes out and says, excuse me, actually it is true, because we've been negotiating with the White House on how much to pay these folks, and we feel $450,000 apiece is a just figure. So apparently, one of two things happened here. Marty said, you see, what had happened was either no one told Joe Biden that his White House was negotiating with the ACLU on paying these folks $450,000 a pop, and somebody else actually is running the show at the White House, or they did tell Joe Biden that they're working on paying these folks this kind of money, your money. Either that or they told him, and Joe forgot. And this, my friends, is the leader of the free world. If it weren't so incredibly sad, it might be funny. My time's up, y'all, and I gotta go. But this day, once again, just like any other, I give it to you. You know what? You're right. America, we're not perfect. But for this old boy's money, it's the best there is. And God knows there's no place else on his green earth that I'd rather be. Speaking of the good Lord, you know he loves you, and you know I do too. Either way, there ain't a doggone thing you can do about either one. God bless.